Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. I'm going to say the cliche thing that everybody's saying. I don't know how the heck it's week 13. The season goes by so fast and it's so crazy. Like, feels like we were just talking about Colorado, North Dakota State. Feels like we were just talking about USC, LSU. Feels like we were talking about whatever, whatever the week 1 games were. Miami, Florida. We fired and rehired Billy Napier like 7 times already this season. But with that said, let's get to the week 13 college football picks. First one that I want to get to is the big one, top 5 matchup in Columbus, Indiana at Ohio State. Indiana, 13.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 51.5. I actually like the under 51.5. First of all, the big news. By the way, we do have the college football betting pod and YouTube channel. Producer Matt, throw the YouTube channel in the comments section on YouTube. If you want to support the show, go ahead, click that YouTube channel as well. Just follow that page. We do our deep dive breakdowns there. But I bring it up because since we recorded our show this week, front end of the week, the big news is Ohio State has lost now a second starting offensive lineman for the season. Seth McLaughlin, starting center, out with an Achilles injury. You feel terrible, but why that's significant? Remember, Ohio State already lost their starting left tackle prior to the Nebraska game. They struggled against Nebraska. They moved their starting left guard to left tackle. Now you've lost your starting center for the season. And I'm sorry, at some point it catches up to you, but here's the thing about Ohio State. They've been kind of led by their defense all year. We spend so much time talking about Will Howard, Jeremiah Smith, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. We forget, like, the defense has been really good, top 10 nationally. And the thing that I go back to with Indiana, I bet the Michigan game, I took the over in that game. And what was obvious to me was Indiana against the size, speed, and physicality of Michigan. I love the Indiana story. They really struggled to move the football. We can deny it. We can pretend. I love Coach Sig. I think it's a great story. I think they should be in the playoff at 11-1, even if they lose to Ohio State. But they really struggled to move the ball. So I think Ohio State gets conservative with a lot of their play calling in this game, trying to protect the offensive line. I just think they want to get out with a win and figure things out going into the Michigan game. In Indiana, I don't know that they're going to be able to move the ball. Do like Ohio State to win 24-14. Do think the under is my favorite pick at 51.5. Just a game that just, listen, there's a conversation to be had about Indiana's playoff opportunities if they get blown out. There's an opportunity if they win, if they whatever. But I just think this is close, low scoring. And then, come Monday, we can have the conversation about the playoff if necessary. Let's go to the second big game in the noon Eastern window. Ole Miss at Florida. Okay, so Ole Miss is a 10.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 55.5. Interesting game, right? Because Florida, they're coming off that big emotional win against LSU, and they finally figured it out. So maybe they can knock off Ole Miss at home. What does it mean? Is it possible? Can they win a second straight game? I don't know. The spread is a stay away to me, but this is another one where I actually like the under. First of all, I went back and looked it up. Of Ole Miss's SEC games, only one has gone past 56 points. That was Arkansas when they put up 63 on their own, okay? So everyone is so focused on Ole Miss. I think people don't realize or people forget that this is a team that while we think of Lane Kiffin as the offensive savant, it's the defense that's carrying them. Go back and look at their games. Gave up 10 points to Georgia, 3 points to South Carolina. Against LSU, it was 23-23 going into overtime. So close, low-scoring games. And the thing with Florida, I think the story's awesome. And I've said my piece on Billy Napier. He deserves another year. I'm happy he's getting it. But they have improved this season because of the run game. Well, this is the best run defense in the SEC. I don't think they're able to run the ball. DJ Lagway, for as good as he's been, he's an under 56% complete or under 60% completion percentage guy. I think it's about 56, 57%. So I like the under. I think Ole Miss wins like 27-10. And I think they keep their playoff hopes alive. Let's get to the 3:30 Eastern window. And how about this? We just talked about Colorado. We're going to get to Colorado, Kansas in half a second. How many people realize what's at stake when BYU visits Arizona State? Excuse me. Arizona State is a 3.5-point favorite in this game. By the way, the crowd should be crazy. BYU, for people who don't know, they have a large contingent of fans in Arizona, easy to get to. Our Torres on BYU page is going to be live in the stadium for that game. Okay. But I bring it up because you look at BYU and you look at the success that they've had. I think people are completely forgetting about Arizona State. Arizona State is also 8-2 coming into this game. Only one loss with starting quarterback Sam Leavitt playing. And the crazy part about about Arizona State in this game is that they actually match up very well with BYU. BYU, of course, last week they lose the game to Kansas. The funny part was BYU probably should have lost some games. I don't know that that's the one that they should have lost. BYU did not play poorly in that game, but Kansas finds a way to win. This game kind of worries me, though, from BYU's perspective. And the reason why, BYU does two things really well that has put them in position to be at 9-1 with 2 games left in the season. What BYU does very well, they force turnovers. 22 in however many games, how many games have they played now? 10 games. So 22 in 10 games. That's an insane number. It's like top 10 in the country. And then they have big explosive plays on offense. Well, Arizona State, top 10 in the country in fewest turnovers, top 10 in the country in fewest plays of 30-plus yards. So if BYU can't force turnovers, if BYU can't get big plays on offense, this just favors Arizona State to me. Should be a great atmosphere. Sun Devil Stadium, I mentioned on the other show. I have a buddy who went to ASU. They thought they were getting College game day this week. They were fired up. They're disappointed, but the crowd will be great. Give me Arizona State -3.5. Let's keep it going. Stay in the Big 12. We spent how much time talking Colorado? Colorado is going to Kansas. Colorado is a 2.5-point favorite in this game. And I'm taking Colorado. Bottom line with this is pretty straightforward. We were early on the Vegas is off on Colorado stuff. And we took, after the UCF game, we've basically took them every week. We took them against Cincinnati to cover. They do. We took them against Kansas State to cover. They do, even in a loss when they were banged up. Took them against Arizona, easily covered. Took them against Texas Tech. They easily covered. And then last week I got spooked because they were an 11.5-point home favorite against Utah. And I said, Utah's defense is good. Well, guess what happened? They put up 49 points and they won going away. And so with respect to Kansas, who's really good, really well coached, I just think Colorado's on a mission right now. And I think the thing with Colorado is even if they make a mistake, even if Shedeur throws a pick, even if they give up a big play, they can flip it like that. They can come back and, have a 2-play 71-yard scoring drive. And all of a sudden you're up, 14-7. All of a sudden it's 14-14 and you don't even know what hit you. And so I like Colorado to win because they can just make so many big plays so consistently on offense. Kansas, very good. They're improving. They've obviously had back-to-back big wins against Iowa State and at BYU last week. I'll say Colorado wins like 38-21. By the way, it is worth noting also, this game is not in Lawrence. Kansas's stadium is under renovation, so this game will be at Arrowhead Stadium. Couple more games before we get to a little bit of college hoops and get out of here. Couple thoughts here. So next game on the schedule, it is producer Matt, pop it up. I forget which game I even gave you, to be perfectly honest. So next game on the schedule, it is Kentucky at Texas. So funny story. And I know, whatever. I won't tell the story because I don't want to throw another media member under the bus, but some people are trying to make the argument. Could Texas be looking ahead to A&M? Could Texas be this? No. Texas is going to destroy Kentucky. Okay. Kentucky fans, I know you agree. I'm sorry. It's the truth. It's going to get ugly. And it's funny because I saw the narrative. So by the way, my pick is Texas. They're a 20.5-point favorite. I like Texas to win and cover. But it was funny because I've seen a lot of pushback about, well, Texas, they struggled at Arkansas. It's like Arkansas still is a tough place to play. Tennessee did beat them there. But at the same time, it was also really the first major road environment that Texas has played in all year long since the Michigan game in week 2. Remember, neutral site game against Oklahoma counted as a road game for them. Then they went to Vandy, where they probably had more fans there than Vandy did. So this was the first big road environment. They lose. They come back. They're playing a Kentucky team that, I'm sorry, that team has quit on Mark Stoops, okay? They need 2 wins to get bowl eligible. I don't think anybody in that locker room cares about going to the lowest level bowl game imaginable. And I think Mark Stoops, he's had some comments this week about raising money, about portal additions. I think they're just kind of over this season. Remember Bill Self, NCAA tournament last year, said something to the effect of, we started planning for next year a month ago. That feels like Mark Stoops now. I'll say Texas wins 38-10, wins going away, wins comfortably, covers the 20.5 easily. A couple other results before we get out of here. Alabama at Oklahoma. Alabama is a 13.5 point favorite. The over-under has dipped to 46.5. I actually still like the under of 46.5. 2 reasons why. Jalen Milroe, love what he does. 180 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns 2 weeks ago against LSU. But here's the truth. What is Alabama's offense outside of Jalen Milroe running? We don't know. And so I'm not sold that they've magically figured things out because they beat a lousy LSU team, even if it was on the road. The other thing, Oklahoma, we can criticize the offense. The defense is still really good. Top 25 nationally in total defense. And remember the teams that they've played. They've played Texas. They've played Ole Miss. They've played some of these elite teams in the SEC. And then on top of that, they have a top 20 run defense. And we know that Jalen Milroe wants to run the ball. And Kalen DeBoer wants to run the ball with Jalen Milroe. So give me Alabama. I'll say like 20-6, 21-7 final score. The under 46.5, even though it's low, one of my favorite picks. Last game on the docket. Can't believe I'm doing it. Auburn hosting Texas A&M. Texas A&M just a 2.5 point favorite in this game. So interesting game. I think everybody knows, but Texas A&M tied with Texas, first place in the SEC standings. If Texas A&M wins out, they're going to the SEC championship game. And if you believe what the committee tells you, you're going to the SEC championship game, you're going to the college football playoff. So 2 big games ahead for Texas A&M. This one does worry me though. Bottom line, Auburn, listen, I know a lot of you don't like Hugh Freeze. Whatever. I like him. I think he's transparent. I think he made mistakes. Whatever. Who cares? Hugh Freeze, I said Kentucky quit on Mark Stoops. I don't think Auburn has quit on Hugh Freeze. I just think they're trying to figure out how to win with a bunch of young players and a 6th-year quarterback who isn't very good. And so you look at their results this year. Late pick 6, or they would have beaten Oklahoma. If it isn't for 4 turnovers against Cal, they beat Cal. If it isn't for 5 turnovers against Arkansas, they probably beat Arkansas. If it isn't for a late comeback against Missouri, they probably beat Missouri. I'm not saying like Auburn could be in this playoff picture with Texas and all these teams. They're not as bad as their record indicates. Texas A&M, good on offense, but Marcel Reed, can he make enough plays with his arm? Don't know how many people realize this. Auburn has a top 15 defense in America. I actually like Auburn to win. I like Auburn to cover the plus 2.5. A&M fans, I'm sorry, by the way. You know that the most peak A&M thing that could happen to you in this program, lose to Auburn, get knocked out of the playoff picture, then beat Texas next week. I hate to say it, but that's the vibe that I got. So those are my official picks for the week. I just gave them out. I'll read them again really quickly here in half a second. But my best bets for college football, again, let's see here. Let's just get them up for you. Let me get them out right here. They are, as I said, IndianaOhio State under 51.5, under 55.5 of Ole Miss, Florida, Arizona State minus 3.5 against BYU, Colorado minus 2.5 against Kansas, Texas minus 20.5 against Kentucky, Oklahoma, Alabama under 46.5, Auburn plus 2.5 at A&M. By the way, as always, you can follow our college football betting YouTube channel. And also, on top of that, you can also follow Aaron Torres online, where I make my picks every week, and the Instagram page, Aaron Torres Pod, where we post our picks.